Okay, so in this section we are going to look at whether we can take polynomials and break them or they cannot be broken, essentially that. Okay, and we are looking at polynomials in over Z and over Q. Okay, so one interesting fact here, I have told you all to look at a similar exercise to this, but I think some of you all have given the right answer also. That is, if D is an integral domain, if D is an integral domain, then I want to know what are the units in dx. Okay, what are the units in dx? So then the units in dx, can anyone tell me? So I want to know what are the units in dx. Okay, so let's think about it. So what do elements of dx look like? Polynomials, right? So let's ask ourselves, if you have a polynomial of degree greater than 0, so degree greater than or equal to 1, what happens? Okay, so suppose you have some, take a, let's start with, let fx in dx be a unit. Okay, let us assume that the degree of fx, obviously f cannot be the 0 polynomial because it's a unit, right? So, so therefore it has to have a degree, right? So what would happen if the degree of f is greater than or equal to 0, or greater than or equal to 1? Okay, so suppose the degree of fx is greater than or equal to 1. Okay, if degree of fx is greater than or equal to 1, now if this is a unit, we know it has a multiplicative inverse, right? If this is a unit, it means that there exists some g of x in dx such that f of x times g of x is the constant polynomial 1. Okay, and we agreed that we are going to use the same 1 of the d in dx. Okay, that's what we agreed. So suppose the degree of fx is greater than or equal to 1, what will this mean? Since we are in an integral domain, okay, since we are in an integral domain, we know that the degree of f into g is actually equal to the degree of f plus the degree of g. In any integral domain, when d is an integral domain, this is always true. Okay, we have proved it. So therefore this will tell us that the degree of fx into gx is the degree of fx plus the degree of gx. Okay, but then this is greater than or equal to 1, right? It really doesn't matter what gx is, this will definitely be greater than or equal to 1. Even if this is of degree 0, it's still going to be greater than or equal to 1. Now what has happened? The degree of fx into gx is greater than or equal to 1, but what is fx into gx? 1, the constant polynomial 1, right? So that's a contradiction. Right? The constant polynomial has degree 0. Right? So I've got a contradiction here. So this means that the degree of 1 is greater than or equal to 1, which is a contradiction. This is a contradiction. And what are we contradicting? The assumption that the degree of fx is greater than or equal to 1. So what does it mean? The degree of fx has to be 0. It has to be a constant polynomial. Okay, hence degree of fx should be equal to 0. Now the question is, are all polynomials of degree 0 units? Okay, and this is not true. Okay, example in zx, if you look at the constant polynomial 2, it is not going to have a inverse in z, right? You will not be able to multiply anything to it to give you 1, right? You cannot multiply anything, because even what you multiply, this g is also going to be a unit. So therefore this should also be a constant polynomial, okay, and hence you cannot multiply any constant to 2 to give you 1, right, in Z. Right, in Z you cannot multiply anything to 2 to give you 1. In Q you can, in Z you can't. Okay, so then what are the units? What do you think? Yes? Yeah. What do you expect it to be? What do you expect the units to be? I said all constant polynomials need not be units. Which constant polynomials are going to be units? The units in D are going to be units. Example, the constant polynomial 1 is going to be a unit. You multiply it to itself, you get back 1. Similarly, the constant polynomial minus 1 is going to be a unit. Okay, so these are in Q. Since Q is a field, all elements other than 0 are units. So in Qx, all constant polynomials will be units. Okay, so this is a contradiction, and hence this. So let us say that fx is the constant polynomial C. Okay. Okay. Notice here that gx is also a unit. Okay, so as fx into gx is 1, gx is also a unit, and hence gx should also be a constant polynomial, say D, for some gx, the degree of gx should also be 0. Let us say that g of x is some D. Okay, so therefore what happens is f of x times g of x, which is CD, right? This would imply that CD, right, because when you multiply two constant polynomials, all you are doing is the only non-zero term which is going to be left with is the constant, this thing, right? That's C into D. Okay, so this will tell us that CD is 1 because f into g is 1, right? So what does this tell me? That C is a unit in D. So what we have shown is that if f is a unit, then it is a constant polynomial, and the constant is a unit in D. So therefore, if f of x is a unit, then f of x is equal to some constant such that C is a unit in D. Okay, so this is what I have seen, that if you have a unit, this can be its expression. It can be only a constant polynomial where the constant is a unit. If I want to state what are all the units, I should prove the converse of this. That is, I have to say that if f is a constant polynomial, with that constant being a unit in D, then f should also be a unit, and that is also obvious, right? So conversely, suppose f of x equals C is a constant polynomial where C is a unit in D, then what will be the inverse of f? C is a unit in D, what will be the inverse of f? The constant polynomial with constant term C inverse, right? the inverse of f will be the constant polynomial with constant term inverse of c. Okay. So since c is a unit in D, okay, since c is a unit in D, or let me just write it like this, let g of x be c inverse, that means the constant polynomial with constant term c inverse. Okay. So therefore what happens to f of x into g of x? It is going to be nothing but, it's going to be a constant polynomial only, right? This is a constant polynomial, this is a constant polynomial, product will also be a constant polynomial with constant term c times c inverse, which is 1. So therefore f of x is a unit. So what we have essentially shown are the units of d of x are essentially the constant polynomials with constant term units in D, or let us just say in short are units in D, because we agree to treat them, talk about the constant polynomials in D just as the elements of D. Okay. Since we are agreeing to work like that, it's fine. So these are the units of D. So as a corollary to this, it is obvious that if f is a field, if f is a field, the units of f, the units of fx are nothing but the constant polynomials are all non-zero constant polynomials. Why? Because in f, in a field, all non-zero elements are units, right? So are all non-zero constant polynomials. Okay, so this is very natural, it is not surprising. Whenever you come across something like this, think of the rings that you are familiar with. Okay, think of R and Q, think of which polynomials have inverses. Okay. In R and Q, you will essentially see that this is exactly what takes place. Okay. So now, as I said, I am going to try to attempt at pulling off some things from Z. Okay, so first let us talk about irreducible polynomials. So if D is an integral domain, then fx non-zero non-unit. Okay, so I am going to define this reducibility only for non-zero non-unit polynomials. Okay, then a non-zero non-unit polynomial f of x in dx. Okay, so f of x is non-zero and is not a unit. Not a unit means it's not going to be that constant polynomial where the constants come from, where the constants are units in D. Okay, so this is said to be reducible, said to be reducible. So reducible means I can break it. Okay, so that's the natural meaning. So like in Z we talk about what kind of integers? Integers which can break are called what? Composite, right? In Z we talk about composite integers, right? It's the same idea here. Okay, but again in Z I don't want to say that minus 11 is a composite integer. I can write minus level as minus 1 times 11, right? I don't want to say that that's a composite integer. So how do I put that in perspective? Okay, so this is said to be reducible if there exists, okay, so that minus 1 in Z, as you can see in Z, that minus 1, minus 11 I can write as minus 1 times 11, right? But that minus 1 is a unit, right? So I don't want to be able to break it as units. If you attempt at doing that, then everything will be reducible. So it wouldn't be a fair definition. You can take any polynomial, write it as a unit times something, 1 times the same polynomial, right? So that's not okay. Anything would become reducible. That's nothing special in that kind of a definition, right? If I allow it to be units, anything would work. Okay, so it's said to be reducible if there exist non-unit polynomials g of x and h of x in dx such that f of x can be written as g of x into h of x. So I can break it down into a product of non-units. Okay, these are non-invertible elements. Okay, if you allow for this to be invertible, anything will be able to be broken down in this manner. Okay, so that's not fine. And so what would be irreducible? So irreducibles are going to take the place of primes in Z, right? This takes the place of composites in Z, while irreducibles are going to take the place of primes in Z. So how do you define a prime? Yeah, so there are multiple ways. One way of saying it is that it's not composite, right? But we always are careful that when we say not unit, we also have to specify that it's not 1 and not minus 1. In Z, if we are working, we should also specify that it is not minus 1. Okay, so a polynomial f of x in dx, d is an integral domain. Okay, so here d is an integral domain. So a polynomial f of x in dx is non-zero and not a unit, is said to be irreducible if, okay, just the negation of that. So if f of x is not reducible, so I cannot break it down in this manner into product of non-units. Okay, not reducible. You can see here that I have not mentioned that g and h are non-zero, because if g and h are 0, okay, actually g and h cannot be 0. That's quite obvious. G and h is, if either g or h is 0, then f would be 0, but f is given to be non-zero. Okay, so I don't need to specify that. So irreducibles and reducibles are only defined on non-zero non-unit elements. Okay, when you want to talk about irreducibles and things, they are only spoken about. So do we know some reducible and irreducible elements in Z and Q? Okay, let's ask ourselves about some reducible and irreducible elements in Z and Q. I want to focus more on Z and Q. So let's look at how do I put it? Yeah. So let's first look at some examples of reducible. Zx, Okay, Qx and Zx, there is some slight difference in behavior. Okay, and let me then look at some irreducibles. Okay, just for giving you an idea. Of course, okay, this is again in Zx and Qx. Let me draw it. Yes. Okay, so any examples of reducible elements in Zx? This, I'm sure many of you can easily think of them. In Zx, reducible elements. Yeah, so you can look at x square minus 4x plus 4, right? This is reducible. Why? Because I can write this as x minus 2, x minus 2, right? So this is reducible. What about, I could even think of x minus 2 into x plus 3, right? These are all reducible. So this would be x square. I'm working backwards. X square plus x minus 6. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, that's it. There's another one which you can see in Z. Okay, this is what I want to actually specify, that if you look at 2 times x plus 6, okay, this can be written as 2 times x plus 3. These are both not units in Zx. 2 is not a unit in Zx. Okay, 2 is not a unit in Z, hence not a unit in Zx. Okay, and anything of degree greater than or equal to 1 is not a unit. So I have broken it down. Okay, now let's look at in Q. In Q, everything that is reducible here need not be reducible here. Let me show you. This is going to be reducible in Q also, right? Because this is a polynomial in Q. I am breaking it down into 2 non-units in Q. These are both non-units in Q, right? X minus 2 is not a unit, x minus 3 is not a unit. So this is also reducible in Q. This is also reducible in Q. Does this mean that 2x plus 6 is reducible in Q? No. Why? Because 2 is a unit in Q. 2 is a unit in Q, right? It has an inverse, 1 upon 2, right? So this is not necessarily reducible in Q. I am not saying it is not reducible. For that you need to prove it. Okay. So, but if you look at x plus 3, so another fact which you can easily prove in Q is that all polynomials, I can't say that. Yeah, that goes here. Okay. Now let's look at irreducible polynomials. Okay. So what irreducible polynomials do I know in Zx? So of course in Zx there are some nice ones you can have. One is fx equals c, where c is not equal to plus or minus 1. Can everyone see that this is irreducible? Why is this irreducible? Suppose I can take this, okay, this c, and break it down into some g of x into h of x. Okay, firstly, because this is of degree 0, okay, and this is an integral domain. Since z is an integral domain, zx is an integral domain, it will force that the degrees of g and h are also 0, because the degree of g plus the degree of h should be equal to the degree of c, which is 0. Yeah? Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. This is not true. This is c is a prime. Irreducible, right? Is irreducible. Thank you. C is, or I'll say mod of c is a prime. Yeah. As she said, we will. So that's a nice one. We could even look at that. If f of x is some c where c is composite, then it's going to be reducible. If f of c is x is some c where c is composite, then c is going to be reducible, right? Because I can break it down into some a into b, where a and b are both not plus or minus 1. Okay, so that's what we can do. So therefore it means that it's reducible. Okay, but this again is not going to be reducible in Q, because that's a unit in Q. Okay. Okay, so if mod C is a prime, then what happens here? Then this will force that this g of x and h of x are both of degree 0. Okay, these will both have to be of degree 0. So they are essentially constants, constant polynomials. Okay, so I can work with them like this, a into b. But if C can be written as a into b, right? We are working in Z. It means that either A is plus or minus 1 or plus or minus C. C is a prime, right? So A divides C, right? The only divisors of a prime are plus and minus 1 and plus and minus the prime. So, if mod C is a prime, okay, so there are two options, as we said. Either A is plus or minus 1, but that's not an okay, what do you call that? Not an okay way to break down C, because we want that both these are non-units, right? That would make A to be a unit. But if A is plus or minus 1, if A is plus or minus C, it will force that B is plus or minus 1, again, which tells you that, so that will essentially mean that either A or B are units. Okay, so if this is a prime, so this will tell us that this is irreducible. Okay, again, this is not irreducible in Q. This is not irreducible in Q for the simple fact that we don't define irreducible for units. This is a unit in Q, hence we don't even talk about reducible and irreducible. Okay, what other things are irreducible? You can look at monic polynomials. Here you can look at a monic polynomial x plus 5. This is irreducible. Why is this irreducible? Yeah, because again, if I take x plus 5 and attempt at breaking it down, okay, what will it mean? That one of them is a constant, okay, and the other one is a non-constant. Okay, so let's see, let us check what happens. So you have, if I can break this down into g of x into h of x, I know that the sum of the degrees has to be 1, so you are left with no other choice other than one of them should be constant and the other one has to be of degree 1. Okay, so let's say that g is constant. So in place of g I can put c. Okay, so this is c times a polynomial of degree 1. So this is some ax plus b. Can you see what has happened? These two polynomials are equal. What does it mean? It means that ac equals 1 and cb equals 5. Okay, since ac equals 1, what are the possibilities for c? In fact, both a and c have to be plus or minus 1. So this means that c is plus or minus 1, which is a unit. So definitely not. So what we have shown is that if we break this down into g of x into h of x, either g or h should be a unit, which means that this is irreducible. I have a small question for you. The question is, if you look at zx, okay, if you look at zx, which of the linear polynomials are actually irreducible? In zx, which linear polynomials are actually irreducible? So for which a comma b belonging to z is Ax, we can consider A to be non-zero also. I am interested in, we have already discussed the constant polynomial, so that's fine. I am interested in linear. Irreducible in Zx. Okay. Now what are some of the irreducibles in Q? Okay. So definitely we know that all linear polynomials are irreducible in Q. Why? All polynomials of degree 1. Why? Because if I take a polynomial of degree 1, okay, I'm looking at irreducibles in Q. If I take a polynomial of degree 1 and I break it down into g of x into h of x, what does it mean? Take a polynomial of degree 1, say ax plus b, and break it down into g of x into h of x, what does it mean? Again, with the degree argument, we know that the degree on the left hand side is 1, right? The degrees on the right hand side should, so the degree of g plus the degree of h is 1. What are the possibilities? Either the degree of g is 0 and the degree of h is 1, right? Or this will mean that 1 is equal to the degree of g plus the degree of h of x, which would tell us that you have two options: either the degree of g is 1 and the degree of h is 0, or the degree of g is 0 and the degree of h is 1. Let us say that the degree of g is 0 and the degree of h is 1. What do you mean by saying that the degree of g is 0? G is a constant polynomial, but we are working in Q, hence every constant polynomial is a unit, right? So I have proved that if you take a linear polynomial and break it down into two polynomials, one of them has to be a unit, which tells us that every linear polynomial is a irreducible. Okay, there is no way of breaking it down in any way that both are non-units. Okay, so all polynomials of degree 1 are definitely here. Do we know any more? We will find out as we proceed. Okay, so we'll get a good understanding of some irreducible polynomials in Z and Q. Okay, but so remember that not all polynomials, so yeah, so we will see some results which we can then correlate with these examples as we go. Yeah, so a first nice interesting fact that we have here is so let F be a field. By the way, in a field, all linear polynomials, just like how I argued in Qx, in any field, all linear polynomials are going to be irreducible, right? Because if you attempt at breaking it down, one of them have to be of degree 0, which will make it a unit. Okay, so let F be a field. There's a nice interesting fact which you can actually use this result in Q very often, or sometimes even in ZP becomes useful. So if it's actually a simple observation, that is, if f of x in fx is of degree 2 or 3 or 3, then f of x is, there is some relation between irreducibility and reducibility and roots, but that only works in degrees 2 and 3. Okay, if and only f of x has a root in f. Okay, we all know what are roots, right? What is a root? Oh, sorry. Then, I'm sorry, f of x is reducible in fx if and only if f of x has a root in f. Okay, so the proof is actually a basic observation. So let us assume first that f of x has a root. Okay, what does it mean to say that f of x has a root? So suppose, so I'm assuming that f is a polynomial of degree 2 or 3. I'm going to work with it simultaneously. It's very easy to see it. Okay, so suppose f of x has a root. In fact, this would hold for any degree polynomial. This argument is going to hold for polynomial of degree greater than 1 anyway. Not degree, yeah, greater than 1. 1 it will not work. Anything greater than 1, this argument is going to hold. Okay, so suppose it has a root. What does it mean? Has a root. Let's call that root as a. What we have said that if f of x has a root, then x minus a divides f of x, right? That's what we have said. What does this mean? There is some g of x in fx such that we can write f of x as some x minus a times g of x. Okay, now notice here that this is not a unit because it's a polynomial of degree 1. We know I exactly know the units in fx. They are essentially constant polynomials, right? Which are units in f, which are units in d, but in this case all constant, non-zero constant polynomials. Okay, similarly g is also not a unit. Can you tell me why? Why is g not a unit? What is the degree of g? Yeah? What is the degree of f? Either 2 or 3, right? So if the degree of f is 2, then what will be the degree of g? 1. If the degree of f is 3, what will be the degree of g? 2. So in either case, the degree of g is going to be greater than 1, so hence it's not a unit. Okay, so I've broken it down into two polynomials whose degrees are greater than or equal to 1 and hence not units. Okay, so therefore f of x is reducible. So this is the easy part. The other side is also easy. Let us, it's just a basic observation as we have said. So what happens suppose f of x is reducible. Okay, if f of x is reducible, it means that you can find non-unit polynomials, right? You can find some non-unit polynomials. There exist non-unit polynomials, g of x, but in terms of the degree, what is the meaning of non-unit polynomials? Yeah, the degree is greater than or equal to 1 or strictly greater than 0, okay, such that f of x is equal to g of x times h of x. Okay, now we know that both their degrees. Let's take case 1. Let us say that the degree of f, let's look at them both separately. If the degree of f is 2, okay, what are the possibilities for the degree of g and degree of h? So we know that, yeah, exactly. We know that the degree of g of x is greater than or equal to 1 and the degree of h of x is greater than or equal to 1. Okay, this is equal to 2. So therefore as f of x is equal to g of x times h of x, the degree of f of x would be the degree of g of x plus the degree of h of x. Okay, so there is only one choice for this, because none of them can be strictly greater than 1, because this is equal to 2. Okay, so this means that both these two degrees are 1. Alright, this degree is 2, right? There's only one way of getting 2 on the left. Right? On the right hand side, there's only one way of getting 2, because both these are anyway greater than or equal to 1. If any of them are strictly greater than 1, your right hand side will be strictly greater than 1. So this would mean that 1 is equal to the degree of g of x plus the degree of h of x, right? Which would mean that the degree of, let us just talk about the degree of g of x. The degree of g of x has to be 1. Okay, because if it's greater than 1, this will be greater than 1. If the degree of g of x is strictly greater than 1, we know this. But if the degree of g of x is strictly greater than 1, this will be strictly greater than 1, right? Because this is greater than or equal to 1. Take a number greater than or equal to 1, add something which is strictly greater than 1 to it. Sorry, 2. Right? So therefore the degree of g of x should be 1. So let us say that g of x is some polynomial ax plus b. Now in this case, a will be non-zero, because the degree of g of x is greater than 1. Can you tell me a root of g of x? Exactly. So the root of g of x would be minus b times a inverse. Okay. So therefore, g of minus b times a inverse would be 0, but h is this into this. So using the evaluation map on both sides, we know that the evaluation map is a homomorphism. Therefore what we get is f of minus b times a inverse would be g of minus b times a inverse times h of minus b times a inverse. It doesn't matter what this is, because this is anyway 0. This is 0, right? 0 times anything gives us 0. So this tells us that minus b times a inverse is a root of f of x. Okay. Now let's look at case 2, that is, what happens when the degree of f is 3. Case 2 is the degree of f is 3. Okay, so if the degree of f is 3, again here we know that the degree of g of x is greater than or equal to 1, and the degree of h of x is greater than or equal to 1. Okay. Notice here that at least one of them should be of degree 1. I'll tell you why. So therefore, as degree of f is equal to degree of g plus the degree of h. Okay. Notice here that at least one of them, 3, should be the degree of g of x plus the degree of h of x. At least one of them should be of degree 1. Can you see why? What will happen if both of them are strictly greater than 1? If the degree of g is greater than or equal to 2, right? Strictly greater than 1 means greater than or equal to 2. If the degree of g is strictly greater than 1 and the degree of h is also strictly greater than 1, or in other words, if the degree of g is greater than or equal to 2 and the degree of h is also greater than or equal to 2, what happens? The degree of g plus the degree of h is going to be greater than or equal to 4, which would give us a contradiction, which means that at least one of them should have degree 1. Okay. So if the in fact this argument works here also, so you need not, if the degree of g is strictly greater than 1, and the degree of h is greater than 1, then, or that is, the degree of g is greater than or equal to 2 and the degree of h is greater than or equal to 2, then the degree of, so 3, which is the degree of g of x plus the degree of h of x, would be greater than or equal to 4. Okay, this is a contradiction. So therefore, assume that, so one of them should be of degree 1. I am assuming that g of x has degree 1. It does not matter. Assume that the degree of g of x is 1 and repeat this exact argument, right? This exact argument you copy from here, paste it into this, it will prove that f has a root. Okay, a very simple argument, right? Degree of g is 1, so you can write g in this manner, which means that g has this root, right? But the same root is going to be a root for f. So when we are working with polynomials of degree 2 or 3, to check whether the polynomial is reducible, it is sufficient to check whether it has a 0. Okay. So let's look at some exercises fast. I have not reached my target at all. That's fine. So we'll look at a few exercises fast just to complete. Okay, so we have in fact done these kind of things. If you look at 2x square plus 4, okay, if you look at 2x square plus 4, is this 2x square plus 4? Okay, so the question is, I want to know the reducible and irreducible nature in both z and q. Okay, over z, is this reducible? Over z, is it reducible? Exactly. Over z, I can write this as 2 times x square plus 2, right? 2 is not a unit. In zx, 2 is not a unit. Okay, so over z, zx, this is reducible. Okay. So fx, again I am talking about this 2 and 4 which are all there. These are all integers. Okay, as long as so this is in zx. So this can be written as 2 times x square plus 2. Therefore is reducible in z. Is it reducible in q? Why? How do you check? Yeah? So to ask whether it's reducible in q, check the degree. Okay, the degree is 2, hence to check whether it's reducible in q, see, just because you can't write it in this manner does not mean that there could be some other 2 polynomials in q which you can break it into. You could break it into some other 2 linear polynomials. So the question is, since it's a polynomial of degree 2, the basic question, does it have a root in q? Does this have a root in q? No, this has no root in q, right? What are the roots of this? Plus and minus, what is it? Square root of, 1 second, this is in fact complex, right? These roots are essentially, these roots are complex. How do you know this has no root in q? Because the square of any number is positive, right? Add a positive number to 4, you're going to get something greater than 0. Okay, so a simple way to test. Put any positive number here, put any rational here, positive or negative, its square is going to be positive, right? 2 times a positive number is positive, add 4 to it, it's positive. Okay, so this does not have zeros in Q and hence is not reducible in Q. Okay, so we've got now a polynomial of degree greater than 1 which is irreducible in Q. Okay. Now, is it irreducible or reducible in R? Again, not reducible in R, right? It's irreducible in R by the same argument, because you try putting any real number here, positive or negative, it's going to become, its square is positive, so twice the square plus 4 is also positive, cannot be 0. Okay. Is it reducible or irreducible in C? Is this reducible or irreducible in C? It is reducible in C, right? So that's another question. So what are the irreducible elements in Cx? Yeah, in Cx, what are the reducible elements? You'll have studied something in complex analysis, so hence I'm asking you this question. What are the reducible and irreducible polynomials in Cx? Okay, so yeah, what about this polynomial? Let's look at x square plus 1 in Z3x. Is this reducible or irreducible in Z3? Yes, is this reducible or irreducible in Z3? All you've got to check is roots, because it's a polynomial of degree 2, right? So Z3, substitute 1, 1 square is 1, 1 plus 1, 2, so that's not a root. Substitute 2, of course 0 is also, you'll have to check, 0 is not going to, 0 gives you 1. If you substitute 1, you get 2. If you substitute 2, you get 2 squares 4, which is 1, modulo 3, right? Modulo 3, that's 1, so 1 plus 1 is again 2, which is non-zero. Okay, so it has no zeros in Z3, hence is not reducible in Z3, hence it's irreducible in Z3. What about in Z5? Is this reducible or irreducible in Z5? Again, all you've got to check is the roots. So check, 0 is not a 0. Is 1 a 0? No. Is 2 a 0? Yes. Okay. So 2 here is a 0. You can see that f of 2 is 0 because 2 square is 4, 4 plus 1 is 5, modulo 5 is 0. Okay. So this is 0 and therefore f of x is reducible in Z5x. Okay. So it depends on which field you are, it depends on which field Zn you are looking at. Okay. The reducibility and irreducibility. Okay. So we'll stop here.